holidays, right? Vahatanya, and isn't it taught in a Braita? Lo hutru pase biraot ela legabe behema bilvad. And elsewhere, a Braita teaches that it was only permitted for animals. My behema, what do we mean by animals? Behemat ole regalim, that it's the animals of the pilgrims. Aval Adam, going over to today's daf, Kaf Aleph, okay, mitapes ve'oleh, mitapes ve'ored, that a person would have to climb down into the well or climb up into the well. Eini, is that really the case? V'ha'amar Rav Yitzchak, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Didn't Rav Yitzchak in the name of Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel say as follows? Lo hutru pasei biraot elev lebe'er mayim chayim bilvad. That these boards around wells was only permitted for wells that come from living water. In other words, we had said spring water. V'i lebe'ema, and if it's for an animal, supposedly only, mali chayim, mali mikunasin. What difference does it make if it's spring water or if it's gathered water? In other words, water from a cistern that had been collected from the rain. Ba'inan midi dechazi, says the Gemara. We require a thing, okay, that water that's fit for dechazi la'adam, that's fit for human consumption. So Gemara continues now to examine the full text of the Braita. Gufa, let's go back and look at it. Lo hutru pasei biraot ela lebehema bilvad. The Braita teaches that these double boards for any kind of well was only permitted for animals. Aval adam mitapes ve'oleh mitapes ve'ored. But a person would have to climb down or climb up, right? V'im hayu rechavan. Okay, and if the wells were a width such that they were wide, afilu la'adam anami, even wide enough for a man, v'lo yimalei adam mayim v'yitain lifnei behemto. Okay, in other words, what if the well is not wide enough for a person to climb down and climb up? Okay, what does he do then if he wants water? Does that imply that a person cannot fill the water and give it to his animal? Aval mimalehu v'shofech lifnei behema v'shotem me'eleha. But rather he can lower it with a pail, bring up the water, and then dump it into a trough, okay? And then the person, okay, can feed his animal, right? And he himself then, or allows the animal to drink by itself. That seems to be the implication, okay? But the person could not drink in that case. Now the Gemara is challenged. Matkif la Rav Anan. Rav Anan challenges this with the following. Imkain, maho ilu pasei biraot. So what then is the benefit of such double boards? Maho ilu. Okay, so what in that case, what do they accomplish? So again, the Gemara wants to clarify. Okay, Rav Anan's objection. Lemalot mehen. This allows us to say, right, that they allow them, okay, to fill them. Elamaho il rosha v'ruba shel para. But the question really is, what's the benefit that our Mishnah said that the head and the majority of the body of the cow has to be within that enclosed area of the boards? Amar Abaye, and Abaye now suggests the following, okay? Hacha b'mai yaskinen, what are we talking about? He says, be'ivus, with a trough, ha'omed b'rishut harabim, okay? Where part of the trough is large enough that extends beyond the enclosed area of the boards, into the public domain. Gavoa asara, v'rochav arba'a, that the trough is at least 10 tfachim high, okay, and wide 4 tfachim. V'rosho nichnas lebein hapasim v'chulei. And then the head, okay, of the head, in this case, not the head of the animal, but the end of the trough extends beyond the enclosed area. Okay, we use, remember, inferior walls. So it goes beyond those inferior walls, okay, into the public domain. Okay. Amar Rav Yirmiyah. And so Rav Yirmiyah now wants to point out something. Ba'aba Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. Ein borganin bebavel velo pasei biraot bechutz la'aretz. Okay. What is he telling him? That there are no watchtowers, okay, and no wells with boards out, okay. There are no watchtowers in Babylonia, and there are no wells with boards outside the land of Israel. Burganin bebavel, lo, dishchishche bitke. The reason there are no watchtowers, right, in Bavel is because the area frequently floods. Okay, Pasei biraot b'chutz la'aretz, lo, and the reason there are no wells with boards, okay, outside the land of Israel, right? Because there are not a lot of yeshivas there. In other words, people don't make a pilgrimage to Bavel. They only make pilgrimages to Eretz Yisrael for the holidays. Aval Ipka Avdinin. Okay? So he says, but the opposite, right, is what the reverse does apply. Okay, namely the laws of huts, okay, does apply in countries outside Eretz Yisrael, other than Babylonia, and the laws of boards does apply in Babylonia. Okay. Now, Ika da Amre, we say there's another explanation of the previous ruling. Amar Rav Yirmiyah Ba'aba Amar Rabbi Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. Ein borganin upasei biraot. There are no watchtowers and no wells surrounded by the double boards. Okay? Lo bebavel velo bechutz la'aretz. Neither in Babylonia nor outside the land of Israel. Borganin bebavel lo. The watchtowers in Babylonia there aren't. Why? The shchiche bidke, because again they have many floods, and the watchtowers were very simple, flimsy, perhaps facilities. Okay, and the floods could have easily knocked them away. But remember, the important thing in Eretz Yisrael was that if they were close to the town, one could extend his Tchum Shabbat, okay, further out. Bachutz la'aretz nami lo. Right? Why? Dishchichi ganave. Why? Because outside the land we say there are a lot of bandits. Okay? Right? So that they could easily, since they were away from the centers of town, if anyone was there, they could have been robbed, right? Or they could do something to the land. Pasei biraot bebavel lo, that the boards surrounding the wells in Babylonia were not common. Tishchiche maya, because they have a lot of water there. Namely, that you have the two rivers and you can irrigate from the rivers. Bachutz la'aretz nami lo, and outside the land of Israel also no. De lo shchiche metivata. Again, because you don't find a lot of yeshivas there. Namely, that people did not go to make pilgrimage to Eretz Yisrael, to Bavel, but they went to make pilgrimage to Eretz Yisrael. Amar le Rav Chisda Lamari Berei de Rav Huna, Berei de Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. Okay, so now we have a little story here related by Rav Chisda to Mari, the son of Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. Okay, Amrei and others say, Atitu mibargash lebe kanishta de Daniel. Okay, they say about you, they said, that you would walk from the town of Barnash all the way to the synagogue of Daniel, the Havatlata Parse B'Shavta, that it was 3 parsangs distance, and you would do this walk on Shabbat, okay, which is questionable because of the Tchum Shabbat. Amai samchitu aburganan. It says, Amai samchitu aburganin. Is it possible that you rely on the leniency of these watchtowers? Ha'amar avuha da avuha mishmei de Rav. But did not the father of your father, or say in the name of Rav, ein burganin b'Bavel, that there are no watchtowers, okay, in Bavel? Nafak, he went outside, va'ach ve'lei, and then he basically showed Rav Chisda the following: Hinu mitvata de mev'alan. Okay, these here are the ruins. Okay, he went out and showed him the ruined towers, b'shiv'im ama v'shirayim, okay, which were within the 70 amos and a little bit of each town. And so he saw these ruins as part of the town, and therefore was felt able to extend his Tchum Shabbat in terms of walking. Okay, a new piece in our Gemara, okay, since Rav Chisda, in the name of Mari, okay, Bar Mar, as follows. Amar Rav Chisda, Darish Mari Bar Mar, Mai dichtiv. What does it mean when the pasuk says the following? Namely, v'chol tichle re'iti kates rechava mitzvatcha ma'od. To every goal I have seen a limit, but your commandment, the Torah, is exceedingly broad. What does that refer to? Right? Davar zeh amru David v'lo pirsho. This thing was said by David, and namely it was cited from a verse in Tehillim 119, okay, but not explained. Amru Iyov v'lo pirsho. Job said it, and again it wasn't defined, explained. Amru Yechezkel v'lo pirsho. Yechezkel said it, and it wasn't explained. Ad sheba Zechariah ben Ado upirsho. Until, okay, Zechariah ben Edo came and he explained it. Okay, now what's the example? Amru David v'lo pirsho. That David said it and wasn't explained. Dichtiv, as it says, again citing the pasuk. Okay, once more. L'chol tichle re'iti kates rechava mitzvatcha ma'od. Again, to every goal I see a limit, but your commandment is exceedingly broad. Right? What do we have here? Okay, again, so he says, what's the point? Amru Eov v'lo pirsho, and didn't, Job said it and it wasn't explained. Arucha me'eretz midah rechava mani yam. Okay, that again, Job, that longer than the earth is the Torah's measure and wider than the sea. Then Amru Yechezkel, and Yechezkel said v'lo pirsho, and it wasn't explained. Dichtiv vayifros ota lefanai v'hi ktuva panim v'achor ktuva aleha kinim behege behei. Okay, that he spread it. In other words, the scroll of the law out before me, and it was inscribed within and without, and on it was inscribed lamentations rejoicing and woe. Kinim zo puranutan shel tzadikim ba'olam hazeh. When it says lamentations, all right, it refers to the difficulties of the righteous, okay, in this world. Okay, and then going over, v'chein hu omer, and that's why he says, Kinahi, v'konanuha, v'haga, zomatan scharan shel tzadikim la'atid lavo. Okay, when it's lamentation, they'll lament on it. But rejoicing, that refers to rejoicing reward in the world to come, right? Right? And then the Gemara says, right, V'chein hu omer, and likewise, another pasuk, right, following, okay, Alai higayon b'chinor, right, saying here with singing accompanied by the harp, right, V'hai, Zohi pranutan shel rishaim la'atid lavo. That is the punishment, so to speak, the difficulties of the wicked in the world to come. V'chein hu omer, hava al hava tavo. Okay, and again, okay, that happenings, in other words, negative happenings upon negative happenings will come. Okay, so coming back now, Ad Sheba Zechariah ben Ado upirsho dichtiv, until Zechariah the prophet came and explained it the following way, right? He said, Vayomer Eli, and this is what he said, and he said to me, okay, Ma ata ro'eh va'omer ani ro'eh Megillah afa. Okay, what do I see? I see a flying scroll. Arka esrim ba'amah, right? The length of it is 20 amos, rechava eser ba'amah, and the width is 10 amos, right? V'chi pshat la havya la esrim be'esrim. So the Gemara calculates how long was this scroll, okay, right? Okay, what must have been unfolded and would be 20 by 20 amos, right? Uketiv hi ktuva panim ba'achor, and it was written on both sides, on the front and in the back, right? V'chi kafal kalfata la, and what happens? Okay, and if kalfat la, when you peel it back, all right, so that you see the two sides, right? Kama havyala, how long was it? Arba'in be'esrin. Okay, we would then say that it's 40 amos, right, by 20. Ukativ, and then it's written, Mi madad b'sha'alo mayim, b'shamayim b'zera tochem b'gomer. Okay, Nimtza kol ha'olam kulo, echad mishloshet alafim umatayim b'torah. Okay, so the Gemara then says, how do we consider this measure, right? Right? Who can, citing the pasuk, right? Who measures with his fist the sea and the heavens with a span that was determined? Okay, in other words, that this scroll, that the entire universe, ha'ulam kulo, echad mishloshet alafim u'matayim b'torah. It's as if it's only one part of 3,200 of the Torah. Okay? Now we're going to come back to our another drasha. Va'amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda again, Darish Mari Bar Mar. He gave another drasha as follows. It's written, V'hinei shnei duda'ei ta'enim mu'adim lefnei hechal Hashem. Okay? That, how do we understand the pasuk? And here, see, there are two duda'ei ta'anim. Let's call them pots or containers of figs that were prepared before the sanctuary of Hashem. Hadud he'echad ta'anim tovot ma'od. One pot contained very good quality figs, right? Keta'anei habechorot, as we go over to the next amud, right? that these are like figs that ripen early, ripen first. V'hadod ha'achad te'inim ra'ot ma'od. And the second pot contained terribly bad figs, right? Asher lo tochlena miroa, that one would not even eat them because they were so bad. Te'inim hatovot, elu tzadikim gemorim. Okay, then we understand this to mean that the reference would be from the pasuk that the good figs, they are those who are completely righteous. Te'inim haraot, the bad figs, elu risha'im gemorim. Those are individuals who are completely wicked. V'shema tomar, and perhaps we might say the following in regards to the wicked: aved, that they're lost. Svaram ubatel sichuyam, that basically their hope is gone and their future prospects are, so to speak, null and void, right? Talmud Loma, Hadaim Natnu Reach. However, the pasuk does say, okay, that from these pots there is some sort of a fragrance. Elu ve'elu atidin sheyitnu reach. Namely, that both groups are destined to have some sort of fragrance. In other words, even those wicked could have the possibility of something good in the world to come. Okay. Now, a different drasha based on the same pasuk. Darash Rabbah. Rabbah gave the following drasha. Mai dichtiv. What does it mean when the pasuk says, Adudaim natnu reach, that these pots gave forth a fragrance? Elu bachurei Yisrael, shalo ta'amu ta'am chet. These are the young men of Israel that never tasted any kind of sin. Okay, an allusion to Shir Hashirim and other kinds of verses. Right? Va'al patchenu kol megadim, and the other part of the verse, right? And our doors are all fine fruits, right? Elu benot Yisrael, shmagidot petcheim leba'aleihen. Okay, these are the women, the daughters of Israel, that share their openings. In other words, that tell about their openings to their husbands. In other words, they inform their husbands if they are nida or not. Lishna achrina, lashon acher, she'agudot pitcheim leba'aleihen. Okay, namely that they, I'm going to say that they tighten or close their openings except for their husbands. Okay, that again, they are faithful to their husbands in terms of their behavior. Chadashim gam yishenim dudei tzafan talach. Again, another pasuk. New ones as well as old ones, my beloved, I have hidden for you. Amra Knesset Yisrael lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says the Jewish congregation of Israel before Hashem, Ribono Shel Olam, okay, Master of the universe. Arbeg Zerot Gazarti Al Atzmi, Yoter Mimasha Gazarta Alai V'Kiyamtim, that there are many decrees, okay, that we have taken upon ourselves, okay, understanding decrees here that there are restrictions, more than you have put upon us, and we have maintained them. New piece. Amarle Rav Chisda lahu omrim derabanan, dehave kamasader agadata kame. And Rav Chisda spoke to one of the rabbis, one of the sages, okay, that used to arrange agadata in front of him. In other words, some of the chachamim were particularly capable at their drushes. Okay, right? Mi shami alach chadashim gam yeshenim mahu. Okay, he wanted to know in this regarding this pasuk, new ones as well as old ones. What does it refer to? Amar he said to him, to Rav Chisda, Elu mitzvot kalot ve'elu mitzvot chamurot. Okay, one lighter commandments. Okay, one refers to the more stringent commandments. Amar okay, so he responded, Rav Chisda, B'chi Torah pa'amim nitna. Are you telling me that the Torah was given over a number of times, a number of stages? Ela, rather, halalu midivrei Torah, v'halalu midivrei sofrim. No, rather these refer to the enactments of the Torah, laws derived from the Torah, and these laws derived from the rabbis, from the sages. The Rash Rabbah. So Rabbah now gives another drasha. Mai dichtiv. What does it mean when we say the following pasuk? V'yoter mi hema b'nei hazahar. Okay, that hazahar asot sfarim harbe v'gomer. I'm sorry. Okay, the more than these, my son, be careful, making of many books. Okay, asfot harim harbe v'gomer. Bani, my son, hizaher b'divrei sofrim. Yoter mi divrei Torah. Be more careful, the words of the sages than the words of the Torah. Shedivrei Torah yesh bahen aseh v'lo ta'aseh. Because the words of the Torah include both positive and negative commandments, right? Which, as a result, you're going to be punished in various ways, right? Some punishments are makos, malchus, as opposed to, let's say, death penalty. The divrei sofrim, kol ha'aver al divrei sofrim, chayav mita. But we often find that whoever transgresses the words of the rabbis, of the sages, is going to be subject to the death penalty. Shema tomar, im yesh bahen mamash, b'pnei ma lo nichtavu. If you're saying, then why? Because lest somebody say, well, if they are so significant, the words of the sages, why weren't they written in the Torah itself, right? Amar Kra, therefore a pasuk tells us, Asot Sfarim Harbe Ein Ketz, that the making of many books is without limit, okay, that there are no limits to the number of books that could have been written then to include the laws of the sages. Remember, of course, the oral law was not written until formally to the time of Rebbe, to the Mishnah. Otherwise, it was passed on orally. Okay? So another pasuk, Velahag, and now in this pasuk, right? Velahag harbe yigiat basar, and much study is the weariness of the flesh. Amar Rav Papa berei the Rav Acha bar Ada, mishmei the Rav Acha bar Ula. Says Rav Papa, the son of Rav Acha bar Ada, in the name of Rav Acha bar Ula. Right, the following: Melamed shekol hamal'ig al divrei chachamim nidan b'tzo'ah rotachat. Okay, whoever makes light, okay, mocks the words of the sages, he will be judged by being put into boiling excrement. Okay, rather difficult punishment. Matkifla Rava, Rava challenges this interpretation. Mikativ la'ag, is it written mocking? Lahag kativ, it's written just the opposite. The word lahag, study, right, from hege, right? Hagita bo yomam v'layla kativ. Elakol hahoge bahen to'em ta'am basar. Okay, but whoever studies them benefits from eating. It's like he tastes the flavor of meat. Okay, in other words, his Torah is helps maintain him the same way meat helps maintain him. A new item, Tanu Rabbanan, another Braita. Okay, still dealing now with the subtopic of rabbinic law. Maaseh Rabbi Eliezer. a situation occurred with Rabbi Akiva, Shahaya Chavush B'Veit HaAsurim, who was imprisoned. V'haya Rabbi Yoshua Hagarsi Misharto, and Rabbi Yoshua Hagarsi was his servant. He would B'chol Yom V'Yom Hayu Machnisin Lo Mayim B'Midah. Each day he would bring him a certain measure, of water. Okay. Yom Echad Matzu Shomer Beit HaAsurim. One day the guard of the prison found him bringing the water. Amar lo Hayom Mimayich Merubin, and he said to the servant, okay, the water is too much. All right, it seems like an awful lot of water. Shema lachtor Beit HaAsurin tatzarich. Maybe you're going to use it to dig up the prison. In other words, use the water to remove some of the ground, some of the earth, okay, between the walls or between the stones in the walls of the prison. Right? Shfach chatzian, and he poured out half the water. V'natan lo chatzian, and he gave them only half the water. K'shaba eitzel Rabbi Akiva. Okay, when Rabbi Yoshua came to Rabbi Akiva, Amar lo Yehoshua. He said to him, Yehoshua, Eina tayodea shezakenani. Don't you know that I am an old man? V'chai tluyin b'chayayich. And my life depends on your life. In other words, that basically that you provide me, okay, whatever you provide me, that's what I'm living on. Sach lo kol oto hamaora. Rabbi Yoshua then told Rabbi Akiva about the entire incident. Amar lo, he said to him, Rabbi Akiva, Ten li mayim she'atol yadi. Give me the water so I can wash my hands. Amar lo, Rabbi Yoshua responded to him, L'shtot, but it's to drink. Ein magi'im litol yadach magi'im. You don't have enough even to drink. To wash your hands, you've got enough. Amar lo ma'aseh, says Rabbi Akiva, what shall I do? Shechayavin aleihen mita, that the rabbis can require the death penalty if one doesn't satisfy their requirements. Mutav amut mitat atzmi, better that I die on a death caused by myself, by not drinking enough. V'lo avor al da'at chavirai, and I not transgress the opinion of my colleagues. Amru, and they said, Lo ta'am klum ad shehevi lo mayim v'natal yadav, that he would not taste anything until he had the water to wash his hands. K'sheshamu chachamim v'davar, and when the sages heard about this, Amru, they said, Ma b'ziknuto, kach b'yalduto alachat kama v'chama. If he was so stringent, so to speak, in his old age, imagine what he must have been in his youth. Uma b'beit ha'asurin kach. And if this is the way he behaves while he's in prison, shelo b'beit ha'asurin alachat kama v'chama, when he wasn't in prison, how much more so he must have behaved? Okay. So we continue now again with a new piece, but tied in with the issue of washing and the hands before eating bread. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, B'sha'ad shetikein Shlomo eruvin v'netilat yadayim. At the time that the King Solomon was the one who made a takana, okay, in terms of making an eruv and the washing of hands, Yatzta bat kol v'amra, a divine voice went forward and proclaimed as follows, Bani im chacham libcha yismach libi gam ani. My heart shall rejoice, right? My son, if your heart is wise, my heart shall rejoice too. V'omer, And the pasuk continues, Chacham bani v'samach libi v'ashiva charpi davar. Okay? Be wise, my son, make my heart glad, and I will answer something towards the one who disgraces me. Okay? Now, a new drasha. Darash Rava. Rava says, Mai dichtiv. What does it mean when the pasuk says, Lechadadi neitzei hasadeh, nalina b'kfarim, nashkima lekramim? Okay? Come, my beloved, let us go out to the field. Let us lodge in the villages. Right? Let us nashkima lekramim. We'll rise up early for the vineyards. Nera im parcha hagefen. Okay, we'll see if the vineyards have flowered. Right? Patach hasmadar, hinatsu harimonim, sham itan et dodi lach. Okay, that the grape blossom has opened, the pomegranates are in bloom, and I will give my love to you. Okay, what are we saying? Lecha dodi, neitzeh hasadeh, section by section of the pasuk. Come, let us go out to the field. Okay. Amra Knesset Yisrael Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says the congregation of Israel before Hashem. Ribono shel olam, al tadineni ki yoshvei krachim, sheyesh bahem gazel, ba'aryot, u'shvuat shav, u'shvuat sheker. Okay, don't judge us. Okay, the way you would judge a resident of those who lived in the cities, where there it can be found robbery and arayos, inappropriate sexual behavior, ushvuat shav, and false oaths, ushvuat sheker, and people lying, things like that. Neitzei hasadeh ba ba'erech talmidei chachamim she'oskim b'torah mitoch hadocha. Instead, he says, let us go out to the field where we can see the scholars who are engaged in Torah study, okay, based on their distress. In other words, the efforts, the great efforts they make, okay, to learn. Now, Lena, of course, remember, by the way, we're talking about a time period in Eretz Yisrael where there were also persecutions, okay? There was also great poverty. So that's part of the implication here. Nalina b'kfarim, okay, don't read it as we will stay in the cities. Al tikra b'kfarim, don't read it as in the villages. Ela b'kofrim, okay, but rather those who are kofir, who are disbelievers. Bo va'arech otam she'ishpa'at lahem tova v'hen kafru bach. Okay, that will say, I'll show you those that you've influenced. Okay, in other words, you've given them prosperity, but they have been kofrim towards you. Excuse me. Nashkim lekramim. Instead, he says, let's go out to the vine, to the area. Okay, of the vineyards. Elu batnei batei knisiot ubatei midrashot. These are the synagogues and the study houses. Okay. In Percha Hagefen, and the next part of the pasuk, we'll see if the vine has blossomed. Elu ba'alei mikra. Those are the ones who are masters of Torah study. Patach hasmadar. Okay, again, opening up of the plants, right? Elu ba'alei mishnah. These are the ones who are the masters of the Mishnah. Okay, Hanatsu harimonim, if the pomegranates have flourished. Elu ba'alei gemara. These are the ones who are the masters of studying the Gemara, the logic involved in determining law. She'im etain et dodi lach, erech kvodi v'godli shavach b'nei uvnotai. Okay, there my love, give the love. I'll show you the glory and the honor of my sons and my daughters. Okay, reference, of course, here to praising the behavior of the children, whether it's in learning, okay, or their modesty, things like that. Okay. Amar Rav Himnuna says a new section from the Gemara. It's going to come back. Mai dichtiv. What is it? Where is it written? What does it mean? By the Ber Shloshet Alafim, Mashal, Vahi Shiro Chamisha Va'elef, referring to King Solomon, right? That he spoke 3,000 Mishalim, parables, and his songs, his writings were 5,000. Okay, from 5. What is that? Melamed she'amar Shlomo al kol davar v'davar shel Torah shloshet alafim mashal. That on each aspect of Torah, an individual law, he could present the 3,000 examples, reasons, right? Al kol davar v'davar shel sofrim, and on those of the sages, right? Chamisha ve'elef ta'amim, and those of the rabbis, he could present, okay, 5,000 plus reasons, explanations of the sages. Now, the Rash Rabbah, again, another drasha, right? New. Mai dichtiv, what does it mean when the pasuk says, again, right, the following, V'yoter shahaya kohelet chacham, od v'zen v'hiker tikein mishalim harbe. Right. Okay, what is that pasuk? And besides being wise, Kohelet taught knowledge to the people, listed and set out and arranged many proverbs. Says the Gemara, the following, that this is what it meant, right? That he says, Da'ag marei b'simaynei ta'amin, okay? That he taught them many explanations, all right? In other words, how did he do that? The ta'amim, remember, are the trope, okay? The symbols, right, above and below each of the words for Torah reading, okay? Ve'esbara b'mai dedamele, okay, and what did he do? And he explained it with similarities, without what was compared to them. Next part of the pasuk, be'izen, right? Bechiker tikein mishalim harbe. He listened and he examined and sought to determine, okay, many mishalim, many parables. Amar Ula, Amar Rabbi Eliezer. Says Rabbi Ula and the name Rabbi Eliezer. B'tchila hayta Torah doma lekefifa she'en la aznayim. Originally, we might say, okay, that the Torah could be compared to a kind of basket that did not have any handles. Okay. Right? Ad Sheba Shlomo, until Solomon came, right? Right, and what did he do? V'asalahem aznayim, and he made then these handles for them. What does that mean? Let's go on. It says, Kutzotav, right? Taltalim. Okay? Another way of explaining it, that he had locks that were long, wavy hair. Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Mar Ukva, says Mar Ukva, Melamed sheyesh ledrosh al kol kotz v'kotz, tilei tilim shel halachot. Okay? And what did he do? He says that he was able to teach for each and every point, each aspect, okay, of the law, all right, piles, many, many laws, many heaps and heaps of laws. Okay. Now, going on a little bit more, Shchorot ke'orev, again citing the pasuk once more from Shir Hashirim, that they were dark like a raven. B'miyatamotza'n, okay, with whom do you find this, right? B'mi shemashkin u'ma'ariv alehem lebeit hamidrash, to the one who gets up early and stays late into the evening at the base midrash. Okay? Or, just briefly, another, Rava Amar, says Rava, B'mi shemashchir panav alehen ke'orev. Okay, like one who darkens his face. Okay? In other words, he's up late at night studying, and the soot, okay, things like that from the candles or from the lamps make his face darken. Rava Amar, B'mi shemasim atzmo achzari al banav va'al b'nei beito ke'orei. It's like one who makes himself mean towards his family members. Okay? Why? Ki hada Rav Ada bar Matna, like the example of Rav Ada bar Matna, Have ka'azir lebei Rav, who would go off to the academy of Rav, Amrale ledebeitayu, and his wife said to him, Yanuke didach, ma'i avid laho, your children. Okay, what am I going to do for them? In other words, what am I going to feed them? Amarla, he said to her, Mai shlemo, korme ba'agma, is there no wild rushes that have grain in them still left in the swamp? In other words, collect rushes and grind the grain and feed them from that. Okay? So, while that's not a happy note, okay, the Gemara is going to continue with the fact that those who do study and make the effort to study do get rewarded. And that's where we're going to pick up tomorrow. Okay? So we'll stop right there. Okay? And continue tomorrow. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Sorry about the problem this morning. I don't know why that happened. Okay? But
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a
problem with
wonderful
Zoom.
day.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Have a great day. Be well.
Have a nice
Ciao,
day.
ciao.
Be safe.